All staff are available to help you. Help to stay safe by keeping your distance where possible, travelling at quieter times, wearing a face covering unless you are exempt, and washing your hands before and after travel. Travel safe. Check before you travel at southeasternrailway.co.uk.
Authentic Lebanese cuisine by Marouche. Exquisite comfort food. Our restaurants are open for takeaway and deliveries. Wherever you are, we'll try and get it to you. Call in or order through Uber Eats, Deliveroo and Just Eat. Enjoy legendary Lebanese food at home from Marouche. Fancy recreating your own dishes at home? Discover the authentic ingredients imported from Lebanon we have available at marouche.com.
Your company's doing pretty well. Your tax position's okay. So what's keeping you awake at night?
To face the future with confidence, talk to Vision Consulting. We've expanded from Gants Hill to the Gherkin, with clients from the fishmonger to the multi-million-pound property investment company. And our growth as a firm of chartered accountants and registered auditors is based on our passion for our clients' business.
Have confidence in your accountant. See visionconsulting.co.uk.
Let's get back to the way we were, to fun, to the cinema, to gigs and galleries, the gym, the thrill of a stadium, to being with each other, to the things we love.
Testing is free, quick and vital to stop the spread of coronavirus. So let's get tested and get back to the things we love. If you're feeling unwell, get a free test now. Call 119 or go to nhs.uk.
At Big Boy and Home, we usually say go big or go home. But now we're saying go big from your home. Order the car you love from the thousands online and then collect in store. Contact-free digital signage, sanitized cars, and a whole lot of loving from tourism. Big Bowling Love has never been so clean. Order online at bigbowlingworld.co.uk. Lockdown has taught us the days of needing employees to always work from the office are over. But can they seamlessly communicate and collaborate no matter where they're located? Discover the power of cloud communications at Smarter Working Now, a free-to-attend virtual expo taking place online this September. Register now for your chance to win an HP ZBook, then join us remotely on the day. Go to smarterworking.uk. smarterworking.uk. Clive Ball on LBC. Call 0345 Let's talk to Helen.
Refugees do not have to claim asylum in the first country that they come to, that's myth, or else they would all be in Spain and France and Greece. I think that the reason why they're crossing the channel in little boats is because there is no safe and legal way to do so, to apply for asylum here. And I think that Priti Patel's talk this morning was really just political posturing about kind of whipping up xenophobia and making refugees into the other that we don't want. And we're responsible in many cases for the destruction of their country. I mean, they've come from Yemen, they're coming from Syria, they're coming from Afghanistan, all of which we have responsibility for. So I think we really, really should be welcoming people.
Well, I don't think you're right about that, though. It's not a myth that you should seek asylum in the first country you come to. And why on earth wouldn't you? That's the real issue. I mean, why on earth would you risk your life in a small boat across the channel when you're travelling through several EU countries that should have respectable asylum systems? Or are you saying they don't?
So I've been to Calais, and I've spoken to some of the refugees there, who've actually said it was better when the jungle was there, because now they are very, very unsafe, and the French police quite often just kind of trash their camps, they take the tents, they throw everything away, they put them up again. It's a really difficult situation for refugees. And, if you were able to go abroad, you decide you want to go there, you would be called hesitant. But these people stay a long time, really desperation. And they thought, my God, we have such a negative image of our lives.
Okay, that's another point of view. Thank you, Helena. 0345 6060 973. What do you feel about this? Is Helena right that you should just be able to choose which country you go to if you are fleeing a war zone and not stop in the first available safe haven? Anne in Wandsworth. Hello, Anne.
Oh, hello, Clive.
Hi. Hello, listeners.
I've got just a couple of things. Firstly, what's happening to these people when they land? Are they being put in isolation, or are they just being allowed to wander off like normally?
I'm sure they wouldn't be just wandering off if indeed they are.
They did before.
Well, it depends whether they're in contact with the authorities or not. I mean, obviously a lot of people make it and just make a run for it.
Oh, yes, well, I don't mean those. I mean the ones that are actually brought in by our own people. Because, it's a bit worrying with the virus and if they're just being let loose. Because we know that this happened before when they were found, but they had to report to a police station, told to come back, and they just all disappeared. That's what I understand it to be in the past, anyway.
Yeah, well, let's find out. I don't know what the situation is in terms of COVID. I imagine that the same would apply as to everybody else. I mean, unfortunately, we've not really handled that situation. Whether you're a migrant, an asylum seeker, or you've just been on holiday to France,
I agree.
we've not been handling that situation very well anyway. And that's how it became a big problem in this country in the first place. Not though from asylum seekers, but from people who'd been skiing and the like. Anne, thank you very much. 0345 6060 973. Let's talk to Molly in Chelmsford. Hello, Molly.
Hi, Clive.
Hi. What would you like to say?
I do get annoyed when people, especially the ones that try to bring at least come over here, they're the ones that they call them refugees, they call them asylum seekers. They're not. Once they leave their war-torn country and go to the safe country, they stop being refugees. They become migrants then. They're not asylum seekers. They've got a chance for so many countries, every safe country they could go to. They come over here because they know they can get what they want. Not only didn't they get in their own country, or somewhere not to touch, they're on their own, got a lot of resources.
Well, obviously they'll get a better treatment here than in their own country if they're fleeing a war zone. Well, that's what you said. It doesn't matter whether we call them refugees or migrants or asylum seekers. Why does it make any difference? Why not? Okay. So you're only a refugee if you stop in the first country.
They only come over here because we're an easy touch. We're at the moment, we've got a little 3-4 star hotels.
Well, you say this, Molly, but hang on, Molly. You say we're an easy touch, but actually France has more asylum seekers, has granted more refugees asylum than we have, far more, and Germany even more than that. what you seem to be ignoring is the fact that most other European countries have granted more asylum than we have. We do very little. We're talking about a few hundred people at the moment. We're not really. We're about the same as most European countries. You can say it as many times as you like, but that's not really the point. But let me ask you another question, Molly. Do you feel that we should be doing a little bit towards refugees as well? Because if you don't, I mean, you're saying because we're not neighbouring any country that is war-torn, we should never ever grant asylum to anybody. Is that what you're saying, really? Because that's the logic of it. Yes. Okay. Oh, dear.
We are now back to good service levels on tubes, buses and trains, although we do ask that you please plan ahead and still travel outside the busier times, if you can, to help with social distancing. I'm also grateful to the vast majority of you who are looking out for each other by wearing a face covering. Police and enforcement teams are working to ensure everyone does this. We are doing all we can to keep things safe, clean and organised. After all, we're here to help all Londoners. To find out more, search TfL Restart Plan. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
It could be a family syndicate. It could be down to not stepping on the cracks in the pavement. It could be somebody's birthday is their lucky numbers. It could be Monday's tonight's lotto double robber. Play online or on the app. Lotto from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Leading Britain's conversation, LBC, with Clive Ball.
LBC, I'm Clive Ball. We'll take some more calls on the migration issue, but let's talk first about something that a lot of young people will be worried about at the moment, and their parents. Nearly 40% of A-level grades submitted by teachers are set to be downgraded when exam results in England are published next week, according to reports. There was uproar in Scotland this week when the Exams Authority rejected nearly 124,000 grade recommendations from teachers, a quarter of the total. But unlike in Scotland, English pupils are barred from appealing against their results on academic grounds. Well, let's talk to David Kernan about this, who's Associate Editor of Alarkey, an independent higher education think tank, and he's talking about the risks of calculating grades. David, good evening to you. So can you just explain, first of all, how these grades are arrived at?
It's a bit of a complicated business.
Well, in a simple way.
In a simple way, as simple as I can. In a regular your teachers will predict your grades somewhere towards the end of the first term of the last year of your A-levels. You would then use that to apply to university. You get an offer, and you do your exams, and then depending on how you did, you go to that university or go to a different one. 2020, of course, it's not been possible to have the exams. So instead of the examinations determining whether you go to a particular university or not, we are looking at the calculated A-level grades. Now, these are pulled together from a range of sources. The teacher grades that you talked about, each teacher will have assigned a grade to everybody in their class for each subject. We're also going to be looking at the previous performance of the school as modified by the previous performance of the students in the school, and you'll also be looking at the ranking of the student in the school by subject. So say if you're the 6th best at your subject in your school, then you'd be ranked 6th. And effectively, what's going to happen, they're going to look at the results from previous years, they're going to weight them according to the overall prior attainment of people who are taking the A-levels. And they're going to say, okay, in a normal year, the top 20% of this particular school got an A star. So this year, the top 20% will be getting an A star. So they're going to count down the ranking that the school has given them and say, okay, the first 20% of them will get an A star. Next week.
How fair do you think it's going to work out to be? Do you think that students listening out will be right to be lower?
It's a difficult one. I mean, first of all, a lot of my sentences to many students that are taking any kind of exams, particularly A-levels this year, this is a nightmare every year. Now, what's likely to happen is that the teacher grades, the grades that the teachers reckoned you would get, they turned out on aggregate to be massively higher than in a regular year. So say in 2019, we would see 75% of A-level candidates getting a C or above in a particular subject. if we went just by the calculated grades this year, that would be 87%. So obviously the teacher predicted grades have been really optimistic. So in terms of, are you going to get what your teacher submitted that you're going to get? Probably not. In 40% of the cases, it'll be less than what your teacher submitted. Are you going to get what you might have got in an ordinary year? The answer is yes, you probably will.
And do you think that it will turn out to really matter that much in terms of grades? When universities and colleges, they must, you know, if you're using your A-levels to get a place, they've got to take everything into account, haven't they? So surely it will work out okay.
They absolutely do, and if you are a young person, or an old person for that matter, taking A-levels this year and not quite get what you expect, the first thing you should be doing is calling your university. Have a chat to somebody there. The university in question have made a decision based on you as a person, not on your A-level grades. So have a talk to them, say that you got a little bit lower than what you were expecting, and this happens every year. Even happened to me years and years and years ago. I got less than I expected. I rung up my chosen university and said, I got a bit less, is that okay? Can I still come? And they said, yes, fine.
Well, let's hope it all works out for the best in the end, David. Thank you very much indeed, David Kernan there from Wonky. What a great name for a think tank. Now, let's talk to Dave in Hornchurch. Hello, Dave.
Everybody's called Dave.
I know.
Quick point, Clive.
Yes.
I don't know how well you did at geography. You're one of my favourite presenters.
I was terrible at geography, actually.
France is 3.5 times
I can't stand geography.
2.5 times the size,
Yes.
same population.
Yes.
Germany's much bigger.
Yes.
Spain's enormous with less population. So
Yes.
those are three major.
Well, they are the three largest ones, yes.
They are huge.
Yes. Well, they are. But then there's lots of small ones as well.
There are, but they don't want to go. They're all got barbed wire across them. You may have noticed on the news last year, most of those small ones have got barbed wire. You can't get across. The lady that you spoke to earlier was totally wrong. That is a United Nations edict that you should apply for asylum on whatever country you arrive in first. So she said it wasn't.
I don't think it's, well, I think she said, everyone's saying they've got it wrong. From my understanding of it is, and it's quite a subtle point of law. That's the problem with it. I think it is technically not required under international law that you go to the first country as a safe haven and apply there. But there is this European agreement, which is that if it turns out that you have arrived in an EU country and you in fact arrived in a different one, then that first country is the one that should be dealing with your asylum. I think that's the point. I mean, it's a very fine point. I think the bigger question really is whether logically and morally you should. As soon as you get to a place of safety, that's where you should, it feels to me, sort of register your interest. Don't you think?
I think you're absolutely right. So we'll leave that one.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say...
Let me ask you the other question. Hang on, Dave.
Just
Oh, you can't hear me. Hello, Dave.
Wasting my time. Been for 10 years now.
Yes.
Our total lack of any sort of border control. We've got.
Yeah.
We don't know what's. I'll give you a quick example. During the 2015 election, I spent some time with a colleague of mine with the E-man, or he saw the E-man in East London, who was a Bangladesh fellow, excellent fellow. He said, look, in Bangladesh, most people don't have enough to eat. They don't drink properly. They've never seen a proper toilet in their lives. Basically, they would all like to come to the UK, Clive. So I went away and I Googled population of Bangladesh. Do you want to have a guess?
No idea. I don't like geography.
160 million.
Okay.
Right. Now, at the end of the day, this E-man is saying to us, they'd all like to come here. I don't blame them. If I was them,
but what does that prove, though? That does the difficulty. The point I was going to try and put to you, Dave, was that if we just say we keep it as simple as just as soon as you get to another country from a war zone, one that we may have created, by the way, you've got to ask there and then. Now, the problem with that is that on that basis, we would accept no refugees ever. And would that really be fair? I don't think it would be fair.
The point that, as you quite rightly said, Tony Blair and then David Cameron, so both parties right across, they created most of this. Now, that's history, so we must go forward. I mean, Cameron decided with Sarkozy to get rid of Libya, get rid of Gaddafi in Libya, and that was one of the main routes that Gaddafi actually stopped coming across to Italy and so on. So we are, unfortunately...
It's also been a pretty appalling performance from the government of the last 10 years, hasn't it? That they talk about taking control of our borders, and they've done exactly the opposite.
Well, you know, my political party has been doing this for 10 years.
Right.
I spent months and months of my life talking to people all over London and Essex about referendum, and because I think at the end of the year, hopefully we'll get out of the EU, there might be a start.
Well, it might be, but it's not looking like the borders are any more controlled than they ever were. I also think I should point out, Dave, when we're talking about small island and population, I do think personally that population is a concern. And you've got to provide for a growing population, which we don't. But I think there's a danger that we confuse two issues here, one of which is refugees seeking asylum, going in dinghies and entering illegally, and then there's legal migration, and that is a far greater number. We're talking about a few hundred so far this year that maybe that have arrived on the Kent coast, maybe more, but it's hundreds of thousands of people who legally migrate, and net migration is still in the hundreds of thousands going down, albeit. And if we're concerned about population, about housing and so on, then we have to consider legal migration. I think that the refugee side of it is a very small part of that. If we are going to accept that we're having a growing population, which again successive governments have, then you have to provide for them, and successive governments have failed, particularly in the area of housing, which we will be talking about a little bit later on. And there is a very genuine question about having net migration of 200,000 people and not building homes for them. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC